Broadcasting live from Hive of the Eye Tyrant on the plain of Faerun. This is Tap Tap Concede. Welcome everybody to Tap Tap Concede. My name is Graham and joining me is Nelson.
Hi there.
And Cameron.
Huh?
And today we're going to be talking about a bunch of the previews that are already out for Dungeons and Dragons: Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, which is the full name of the set.
A Magic the Gathering expert level expansion set brought to you by Wizards of the Coast, TM Circle R.
Yes, Magic the Gathering by Richard Garfield is a Deckmaster game.
A wholly owned subsidiary of Hasbro.
This is why I've been referring to the set as just AFR. I'm just like, great.
AFR rolls off the tongue, yeah.
Maybe we could even workshop that to just...
If you want to pre-order some alpha, you should do that at Card Kingdom. Don't try and, you'll probably have to use the real name or, click on the right things when you do it. But, we would know. If you were ordering alpha from us, we would know, but we don't sell it. But they do, and you can buy it from them. Go to cardkingdom.com/LRR. That lets them know that we sent you, and ask for a little button in the comments thing. Tell them Loading Ready Run sent you. Ask for a button, and they'll send you one. And I think we still have Changelings or Cowards, but there's a new batch on the way, so we shall see what you end up getting. It'll be a surprise for us all. And of course, the show and everything that we do is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Technically, I said Plane of Faerun. Technically, they've said that the Forgotten Realms /Faerun is not in the Magic multiverse. Technically, if you want to get really... The thing is, I don't care. But there's a whole class of people that really, really need to have every little connective question answered in the media that they consume. And so for your interest, apparently, you can't actually planeswalk from Kaladesh to Waterdeep. But if you did, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, it's a Rule 0 planeswalker ability.
Yeah. So there have been, many cards previewed over the last, it feels like no time at all. We're up to 200 and something, 215 or something cards at time of recording.
This week was an avalanche of previews, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, somebody was asking, a couple people actually, for the return of recording date. We were recording this on Friday, July 2nd. We typically record these on Fridays, the Friday before you hear it, generally speaking. So it's Friday, July 2nd. And at this point, about 200 some odd of the cards have been spoiled. But if you want to see all of the cards after all of them have been spoiled, but before you get to play them, we have the PPR coming up on Wednesday. This coming Wednesday, July 7th, is the pre-release for Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. It's going to be fun. We know the timing is weird. It's a little discombobulated because of the delays of the paper product, which Wizards posted about today. They said that it's not a limited run set, but draft boosters might be a little hard to come by in Canada and the US on release day, but eventually they'll be working on it. Anyway, that all has sort of also affected the PPR, obviously, which is why it's on this Wednesday rather than the prior Friday, which is when we would usually have it. And it's impacted sort of some of the stuff that we wanted to do at the PPR. But I will tell you what we are doing at the PPR is we're going to do a bunch of sealed. We're going to do 4 rounds of sealed, sort of like the Strixhaven pre-release. And that'll be a bunch of fun. And then rather than a commander game, because the commander decks aren't even being spoiled until after the PPR, and we're doing one of them, and that'll be fun. That'll be on the 10th that we're spoiling that.
To be clear, we are not spoiling this commander deck in the PPR.
No, exactly.
At all. Not at all. The whole day.
Yeah, they've given us a specific date for it, and it's the 10th. So instead, we're going to be doing a D&D/Magic tabletop one-shot. And for more information on exactly what that is, I encourage you to watch it. I will tell you right now that the players are myself, Kathleen, Cameron, and Adam, and the DM is Dale, and that's all we're going to tell you about it for now.
Oh, it was... Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very silly. So yeah, tune in for that on July 7th. It should be a fun time. But now we want to talk about some of the spoilers. And actually, since it was just spoiled just now by us, I'd like to talk about the commander, the sort of the default commander. I don't know what you'd call it, the canon commander, whatever. The picture on the box from the commander deck that we are going to be previewing on July 10th. So the deck is Draconic Rage, and the commander is Vranus, Rage of Ancients, who is a 5/4 legendary dragon barbarian for 3 red-green. This is kind of cool because there's Dragonkin in D&D, and so now in Magic we get to have like sort of just normal, like bipedal humanoids that are also dragon subtype. So that's neat. I mean, this guy's still a 5/4, so it's not like this one's particularly smaller. But anyway, so the deck's called Draconic Rage. Vranus is, Rage of Ancients. And what does Vranus do? Well, Vranus has Enrage. So whenever Vranus is dealt damage, you may create a 5/4 red and green dragon spirit token with, when this creature deals damage, sacrifice it. And whenever you roll one or more dice, you may have Vranus deal 1 damage to itself. So that seems pretty fun, I think.
Yeah, it's neat that it's a red-green creature that makes blue illusions, kind of, right? Like they're red and green tokens, but it's like that. Oh, no, sorry. It's not whenever it's targeted. It's whenever this creature deals damage. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's super neat. Okay, so he brings dragon friends, but they only owe him 1 favor.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's a lot to unpack. Neat card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird. Okay.
Possibly like a great fit into your dinosaur enrage deck, just because you probably already have the enrage enablers. Dragons and dinosaurs being, close cousins, perhaps.
Yeah, I assume that there's going to be dinosaurs in here. I mean, technically speaking, I could probably go look, because I somewhere in an email I probably have like the information about it, but I don't know, and I am not going to risk spoiling anything. So I'm basing purely supposition off of Vranus here. I expect there's some reprints of Enraged dinosaurs in here, and hopefully some new ones. I mean, I don't know that the whole set is going to be like Enrage themed specifically, but that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I don't want to say an underexplored mechanic, but one that must have a lot more design space or possibility space left to it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we didn't see like maybe the full potential of Enrage, certainly at the top tiers of play. Like I think there's plenty of like, really powerful Enrage effects that were watered down enough so they were still good and limited, but not necessarily like top tier constructed Enrage cards. There weren't a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So yeah, Vranus seems pretty cool, and I look forward to seeing how Vranus interacts with the rest of that deck. How should we each sort of wrote down like a list of a couple cards we wanted to talk about. Maybe let's sort of go around based on the order of who is in this recording software. Nelson, why don't you talk about something next?
Yeah, so since the last time we've met, all these class enchantments have been previewed. So I just want to talk about them a little bit. They sort of look like sagas, and I haven't read the FAQ yet. If I understand them, they're more just like level up enchantments that sit around and keep giving you, good abilities. Let's read the wizard class. This is a 1 blue mana enchantment, and it has the subtype class. So for 1 blue, you just have no maximum hand size. So same as what's that? There's a 1 blue enchantment that does that as well, right? Or you commander players can get my back here.
Yeah, Library of Lang.
Yeah, Library of Lang for one generic, exactly. And then, so to get to level 2, you just have to pay 2 generic and a blue as a sorcery, and then you add the abilities. So now you have, if you put 4 mana into it, you have no maximum hand size, and then you draw 2 cards as a triggered ability when you went into level 2. Now, I assume you can't just go into level 2 as many times as you want. Probably you're just allowed to do that once, and then it has like 2 level counters on it, probably. And then I imagine the rule is either you can't activate that ability, or probably you're allowed to activate that ability, but nothing happens. Finally, when you pet 5 mana, 5 more mana, so now you're up to 9 you've invested so far, but you got 2 cards and you're not discarding. Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Oh, that's neat. So that's only an uncommon, and you only have to put the first mana down to get the initial bonus. So interesting card. I'm not sure if there's any kind of rules that I'm missing about them, but it seems like, all these class cards have some different flavorful sort of bonuses and abilities that'll mesh with certain decks.
Yeah, I like that there's a sort of combination of ones that are like when you gain this level, or ones that have just sort of static ongoing ones. Like that one was uncommon. I'm going to, if I may, read a rare of the Ranger class. So it's 1 and a green. When it enters the battlefield, you get a 2/2 wolf. So that's it. It's like it's a bear, essentially. But then you can put another 1 and a green into it to level 2, which says whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature.
Seems pretty good.
Yeah. If you get this on turn 2, you get to attack with your wolf as a 3/3 next turn. So that's kind of cool. And then you put another 3 and a green in to get to level 3, and you can look at the top of your library at any time and can cast creature spells from the top of your library.
Yeah, that seems super powerful.
Yeah, that's been a particularly powerful spell. Like a lot of there's so many different classes, so we're not going to like read every single one of them, but so far at least: sorcerer, rogue, fighter, ranger, bard, cleric, warlock, barbarian, I think.
Yeah, I think barbarian was spoiled.
Oh, druid.
Was monk spoiled too? Is there a monk class yet? Because I know monk is a D&D class.
Not yet.
Okay.
Maybe by the time this airs there will be, but not Not yet. I never do enough like sort of spreadsheet comparisons to sort of, because people know how the collector numbers are organized.
Right.
And they
Okay.
can be like, wait, there's a space here and here, which means it has to be this color and it has to probably start with this letter. So, you know.
Ed from Yellow Jacket always checks on that. He's like, there's the name and number crunch in one of the forums, or people are always working on it.
Yeah.
I really like the rogue class. So this is a blue and a black to cast. And then the first ability is whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of that player's library face down. You may look at it for as long as it remains exiled. So it just mills them one, but you can look at it. Then for 3 more, now your creatures have menace. So that's fairly powerful. Now we've got an enchantment that gives all your creatures menace. And then for 4 more, so all told, we put 9 mana again into this enchantment. But now you may play the cards exiled with rogue class, and you may spend mana as though or mana of any color to cast those spells. So it turns kind of all your creatures into Robber of the Rich, but with menace. So pretty
Nice.
synergistic and really fun, obviously.
And the ones we've seen so far are either uncommon or rare, which I feel makes sense. I like visually, compared to sagas, they have the art and the text on the opposite sides of the frame,
Right.
which I think is neat. And yeah, I mean, these just sort of immediately make sense. It's like, oh, it's an enchantment that you level up, and then you can, okay, sure, and you can play more than one because you can multi-class. So yeah, all right, cool, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I dig it.
Yeah, they're very intuitive. I like them a lot. I think they also explore a new design space.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There have been some enchantments in the past that have both a static ability and like an activated ability, but these ones still feel pretty unique.
Cameron, what have you got on your sort of short list of fun?
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about Loth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Who is Loth?
Loth was the kind of creator deity of the Drow, who are the Underdark dwelling evil elves in the Forgotten Realms. And she's the spider god, the spider goddess. And there was some drama recently, and by recently at this point in my life, I can probably say that happened within the last 15 years, where Loth was deposed as the kind of like patron of the Drow. But who knows? I haven't kept up with the realms much. Anyway, she's a real big spider lady who's a planeswalker. Loth Spider Queen is 3 black and comes with 4 loyalty. She has a static ability that reads, whenever a creature you control dies, put a loyalty counter on Loth Spider Queen. So my ears perked up immediately. She only has Sarkhan the Mad.
Right. Only minuses, Sarkhan the Mad.
Only minuses, but she also has a 0 ability, which reads, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Okay, cool. So she's a Phyrexian arena, but you have some control over it, which is, what you want to see on your Phyrexian arenas. Her -3 reads, create 2/1 black spider creature tokens with menace and reach. So these have a lot more utility than your standard tokens, right? You get 2 of them. You can just like run her out. You get 2 blockers that can pretty much tangle with anything you're going to see on a battlefield that isn't like Looter Ilkor, right? Like things are going to be Loth will be pretty safe behind these 2 spiders, unless your opponents have something like, I don't know, Trampler?
Trample's rough. Questing book, always a problem. But
if you don't want to run Loth out against like big green monsters, like, I don't know, the old Cameron's brain is percolating at this point, right?
Yeah.
And her -8 is you get an emblem with whenever an opponent is dealt combat damage by 1 or more creatures you control, if that player lost less than 8 life this turn, they lose life equal to the difference. She can kind of bring the hammer, right?
Yeah. Wow.
If you just like boop somebody for 1 with this emblem, your opponent's gonna have a bad time, right? And she runs out these 2 like very squishable spiders. Presumably you double block anything coming at you. Trade for a Sarah Angel, right? Or equivalent, excuse me. And I don't know, draw a bunch of cards? Or sorry, put loyalty counters on it, right? Excuse me. Yeah. And her spiders have menace. They have menace. They can rumble in.
I really like that they have menace. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really good card.
Your opponents need 4 creatures to block her spiders. And I kind of want to sleeve this up for aristocrats.
You mean aristocrats?
Yeah. My aristocrats deck currently only runs 1 5-drop, which is Zealous Conscripts. But I think I'd be willing to find space for a second.
It's pretty neat that you can, like, she has this self doubling season potential of just like you can cast her, and then if you happen to have 4 jumps that like it's better if your opponent blocks, then you can just rumble in immediately before you activate the ability, and then you can -8 for next turn. I really like the look of this card. She comes down, she can help you stabilize by making 2 creatures that have reach, and then she can pull you back ahead with her 0 for as long as that takes, and then she can, slowly win the game for you between -3ing and attacking and maybe eventually ultimating. Most games you're probably just going to use the top 2 abilities, but that's okay. They're good abilities.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm enthusiastic to try her out.
Mm-hmm. The next card I wanted to talk about is for a couple reasons. One, because it is also sort of very kind of flavorful for what I remember from when I was initially learning about D&D, and two, because it has this thing about this set that I think is really cool. So this is the Mind Flayer, and it's a 3/3 for 3 blue creature type horror. And its ability is when Mind Flayer enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature for as long as you control Mind Flayer. So it's mind control on a stick, which sounds great. That's going to be good stuff. And it works very well with the sort of the flavor of the Mind Flayers from D&D, which I like a lot. But this has this thing that are sort of like flavor abilities. I can't remember exactly the terminology that Wizards used for it when they were explaining this. But did we talk about this on the podcast already? I can't remember.
We might have. I've just been calling them ability words, but they might have a new name now that they're like so ubiquitous. I'm never able to watch those Thursday afternoon ones. Yeah, with Blake. Yeah,
it's all through the set that there's, because the italicized text doesn't actually mean anything mechanically, right? That's a thing with like flavor text and reminder text, and those like ability reminder words don't actually sort of, there's no mechanical association with them. So even like what we were just talking about vranus, right? So like enrage, it says enrage to remind you, oh, this has enrage, and I can sort of remember what that does, but that doesn't actually mean anything, because the rest of vranus says whenever vranus is dealt damage, you may create, right? So the enrage is just like a reminder. This card has a thing that says when it's dealt damage, it's going to do something, but we'll explain all that in a second. And in this set, there's like a bajillion of these things because they're all stuff from D&D. So the Mind Flayer's ability is called Dominate Monster because that's a spell from D&D, right? And so they're all over cards, especially modal cards. There's some cards we've seen like you meet in a tavern, which is, like the thing your DM would say.
The classic D&D hook.
Yeah.
The beginning of every D&D adventure. Yeah.
And so you get to either form a party or start a brawl. But the words form a party and start a brawl don't mean anything mechanically, but then they explain what those do. So those things don't have to be there. It could say choose one, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal any number of creature cards from among them, put them into your hand, and put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order, or creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. And then you could sort of infer, it's like, oh, I get it. So it's like there you get along, or maybe there's like a fight or something, but just putting that on the card, just saying like form a party or start a brawl, and then explaining what that means mechanically, I really like. And I kind of hope they do that. Like, it works particularly well here, but I kind of hope they do that for other modal stuff going forward. They probably won't, because it's probably just a lot of text, but it works really well here.
Yeah, it's contextual keywording, I guess. But yeah, no, I agree. I think it's great.
Yeah. So I guess I sort of jumped ahead there, but I think Mind Flayer is particularly cool. I think it's good, right? 3/3 for 5 with mind control until they kill the Mind Flayer. Yeah, great. It's a good card. It's flavorful, and I like the ability word. It's good stuff.
Where does this sit relative to things like Hostage Taker? Or do we need to get into that?
Yeah, no, we can judge this card. I like that.
I mean, Hostage Taker is probably better, because if you have all the mana up to steal their thing and then cast their thing, then you don't care if they kill Hostage Taker, right? Because if they kill Hostage Taker once you've cast their creature, they don't get their creature back, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's probably better, but I don't know. This is still, it's like it's a 3/3 active treason that's not, doesn't give the creature haste, but they don't get their thing back at the end of turn. Like they have to use a removal spell on this to get their creature back. So
yeah, like mana wise, it's more efficient than Hostage Taker. You only have to put the initial 5 in. You have a slightly bigger body than Hostage Taker too. I think Hostage Taker is a pretty good comparison. The issue with Mind Flayer here is that whenever they have mana up, they might be about to wreck combat by removing your Mind Flayer. So it sort of forces you to play Protect the Queen, or like make moves that are just attacking with their creature, right? Like say you're taking their biggest thing, and then you have a better attack this turn now that you've played Mind Flayer, and then on following turns, if they are just holding their mana up and your Mind Flayer is still in play, you're maybe advised to only attack with the creature that Mind Flayer has stolen, so that the rest of your creatures don't get wrecked or whatever. Unless you're in the situation where you'll win if you do something else,
right?
Mileage may vary. I wouldn't mind talking about another blue card that was previewed somewhat recently, Demi Lich.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a really interesting, and it's like got a lot of flavor and powerful abilities going on. I don't actually know what a Demi Lich is from D&D. I feel like I've maybe heard of this before, but I'm guessing it's just another kind of lich. Do you know? Or yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you. I looked this up the other day because I was like, "Yo, what is that?" So, a Demi Lich. I'll just read from the Forgotten Realms wiki. It's a lich who has evolved beyond a need for its undead body.
Okay.
So, wizards and sorcerers usually become liches in order to continue their pursuit of magic and power beyond death. And Demi Liches are those who are close to reaching the end of that arcane journey, who understand the nature of magic and reality in a way no mortal could conceive. So, to do this, the lich has to learn the art of creating soul gems and replace 8 small pieces of its body with them, which usually are like eyes and teeth, but they could be like joints in the hand or something. But often, like generally speaking, they're just like, you know what, bodies, let's just go skull. And the gems act similar to phylactery, and yeah, so it's a weird. Let me see here, tiny size, that makes sense. Neutral evil, undead, challenge rating 18.
Okay, so the party has to like find and somehow contain the Demi Lich. I assume the skull also just flies around all the time because that's like a wizard thing in D&D. Once you're a high enough level wizard,
Evidently, yeah.
You can just have some magic item on you that's like a ring where you just fly around. And then the party probably has to destroy all the eyes and teeth in order to kill the Demi Lich. And they're always like some kind of crazy evil undead wizard. Neat.
That's my assumption.
Okay, so in Magic, we've got a 4/3 skeleton wizard creature that costs blue, 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 blue. But it costs 1 blue pip less for each instant and sorcery you've cast this turn. So it's kind of a storm spell. Neat, right? And, coming shortly on the heels of Strixhaven. Also, whenever Demi Lich attacks, exile up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard, copy it, you may cast the copy, but you have to pay the mana. You may cast Demi Lich from your graveyard by exiling 4 instant and or sorcery cards from your graveyard in addition to paying its other costs. So, yeah, possible, I don't know, like the repeatable value plus the like extra, snapcastering back of spells from your graveyard just looks to be like a super fun include in, a blue-red or blue-X spells deck. Or, in really any color of spells deck, I suppose. It could go into a Boros spells deck as long as you're committed to casting 4 spells every time you want to get the Demi Lich on the table. Pretty neat, right?
Yeah. I like that if you do that, if you do the casting the things, you can, and they counter it. If you try to cast it for free and they counter it, then you've already filled up your graveyard with the stuff needed to just do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. This seems like a really cool card. I can't tell from the outset whether it'll be, the thrun of this set where it's like everyone was really expecting it to see a lot of constructed play, or whether it'll be like, the Baneslayer Angel of this set. This card seems like it's very cool and powerful. So I'm excited to find out whether or not constructed mages are going to be flopping it or clicking on it, I suppose, in our current day and age.
Notably, much like Beholders, the Demi Lich, while able to hover, does not fly.
Oh, right. Sorry, the creature doesn't have flying, even though we talked about it flying in the game. That's fun.
Yeah. Anyway, Cameron, what you got?
I would like to talk about another planeswalker, Zariel, Archduke of Avernus, who is a red planeswalker. She costs 2 red. Yeah, no, Avernus is the, chaotic evil hell in the realms, I think.
Yeah, are there 9 different hells?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I've only ever really dealt with Asmodius, so, I don't deal with the other hells. But she comes with 4 loyalty, and her +1 ability is creatures you control get +1/+0 gain haste until end of turn. Yeah, fine. Okay, sure. Her 0 is create a 1/1 red devil creature token with when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. And thank you, I've been waiting. Like, we got
Tybalt from War of the Spark, yeah.
Yeah, but he could only minus to make a devil.
Right.
And could only make 2 before he had to go and lie down.
He did keep your opponent from gaining life for a little bit after he made those 2, though.
It's true. That was handy. But Zariel, because I believe that Tybalt was also 4 mana, right?
No, 3. 3. There's only 3. Yeah.
Oh, well, point being, Zariel can continue to make devils for as long as she pleases. And her -6, her alt, is you get an emblem with, at the end of the first combat phase on your turn, untap target creature you control. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, this is an emblem.
Yikes.
So, presuming there's been some way that you're able to live through the first one, next turn there's going to be 2 more combat phases. I don't know. This is just another interesting creature. I want to flop this with like a Falconwrath aristocrat, Butcher of the Horde. Give me those big aristocrats who love to eat devils, or even something like, I don't know, what are my other 4 drops that don't get haste? This opens up a lot of possibility space for aristocrats in that you can play big sack outlets that don't get haste. So you can have more creatures than just Falconwrath Aristocrat and Butcher of the Horde. This is very exciting. Well, I mean, very exciting. This is something I'm going to sleeve up and try playing with. Mainly, I've just been looking for a devil token spigot of some kind. Just a drip of devils is all I want.
Just a steady flow. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Phyrexian devil hangout.
Yeah, exactly. Like Goblin, what was the one from Zendikar block who was a devil creature token, but it cost you a card? 1/1. When it died, it hung something.
Oh, yeah. Just fixed Mog Fanatic. What the heck is that one called?
I mean, there was Footlight Fiend from Ravnica block.
There's one that's 1 red, though. I know what you're talking about. I'm embarrassed. I can't remember the name of it.
I keep wanting to sleeve them up, but they're just not worth a card.
Is it Goblin Arsonist? Is that right?
Goblin Arsonist. There we go.
Hooray.
Yeah, we all got there by combining the power of our 3 mighty brains.
Everyone in the comments who was typing Goblin Arsonist, thank you. You can stop. Thank you, though.
They're good, but they're not worth a card.
Yeah.
And if I can get them on a token that something else makes, that is far better, right? Because they're useful. They're definitely useful in the strategy. If I could make one type of token, it would be these homies, but I don't want to pay an entire card for them.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to losing to your, master of the chaotic evil planeswalker.
Thank you.
Oh, I want to talk about another card that sort of has another kind of set-wide, not like mechanic, but kind of mechanic. I want to talk about Spiked Pit Trap.
Let's do it.
So it's a single mana artifact with flash, which, I mean, I don't know if that actually makes it necessarily better, but I like the flavor that the Spiked Pit Trap is a surprise. And then you pay 5 mana and tap and sack it and choose target creature and then roll a d20. So there's a bunch of cards in the set that have you roll a d20.
Yeah, I don't think we've talked about that yet.
Yeah. And then much like in D&D, in fact, sort of the way that just the like 2 color lists, the way that things are laid out in the source books, it tells you what the die roll results will do, which I think is really cool. So the Pit Trap is if you roll a d20 and you get between 1 and 9, then it deals 5 damage to that creature. If you get between 10 and 20, it deals 5 damage to that creature, and you create a treasure token.
Nice.
So like it's 6 mana, but we ran that in Dominaria. We ran that
the skull.
The skull. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it was a single mana, and then you pay. I think it was then you pay 6 and tap and sack it to give like -5/-5 or something.
Yep.
And so in limited, certainly you're going to want to do this. There are cards that care about rolling dice, but generally, I just wanted to talk about the whole D20 mechanic. Now, I think that they said in their article where they talked about this that when they say D20, they mean actual D20, not a spin down.
Interesting.
And the pre-release kits are going to come with D20s, which they said is for flavor reasons, but also that, then everyone has a D20 to use. I know that because we're not going to talk about this at the PPR. I know that there's been like debates about this for a while about a spin down being,
at the beginning of the match, right?
Yeah.
People talk about it.
But a spin down being less random than a D20. And I do not believe that.
Me neither.
Like I've rolled spin downs and the statistical breakdown on it, and they're random. They're as random as a die 20. Everyone says like, oh well, I mean you can manipulate it by just like dropping it into the no.
So then you're not rolling the die. I think everyone underestimates how much a die actually moves and spins when you roll it, because they go. We've filmed them in slow motion and they go.
Yeah, I just want to say, tell me you can cheat roll a spin down in a way that you can't cheat roll every other D20, right? Like you want to roll a 20, right? So just hold the 20 on a randomized D20 in your hand and then do your same cheat roll that you do with the spin down, right? Like
if you're going to cheat roll a die 20 and you actually can manipulate it, then you're probably already drawing extra cards and I have no idea, right? If you're doing Las Vegas, like, tier sleight of hand in a game of Magic the Gathering, then I'm already a dead man, right? Like, it's like, oh, I didn't know Lightning Bolt was in this format. I guess I'll trust you. Weird.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it tires me. The argument tires me.
It exhausts me as well. But
I will say this, really roll your dice. Make sure that your opponent can see that you're really rolling it.
yeah.
Coming back to the Pit Trap card, though, I have some complaints, although I think it's very cool. I'm glad that Spiked Pit Trap is a card in Magic now. We didn't make it a trap card. We clearly could have.
That's true. It could have been Artifact Trap.
Screams in Zendikar. Yeah. And also, I like the 1-9, 10-20 format a little bit less. Well, a fair bit less than cards like Wizard's Spellbook, 5 generic blue artifact. Tap, exile target instant sorcery card from a graveyard, roll a d20, activate only as a sorcery. 1-9, copy that card, you may cast the copy. 10-19, copy that card, you may cast the copy by paying 1 generic rather than paying its mana cost. Or 20, copy each card exiled with Wizard's Spellbook. You may cast any number of the copies without paying their mana costs. So, like, ideally, if we're getting the D20 out, it really feels like there's a more meaningful kind of roll happening than a coin flip.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And, you know, we're going to have our D20 out and it's fine. Honestly, like, rolling a die is how most Magic players handle rolling a coin or flipping a coin anyway. So it's not a big deal, but it is kind of exciting to be like, okay, well, something happens if I roll a 20.
I do like that. I like, there's, as an example, at Uncommon, Power of Persuasion. 2 and a blue for a sorcery. Choose target creature an opponent controls and roll a d20. 1-9, bounce it to their hand. 10-19, put it on top of their library. 20, gain control of it until the end of your next turn.
Yeah.
Right?
The best unsummon ever. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I definitely agree that having a critical success option on these cards, which most of them do, to be fair, I think is very cool.
Yeah. This Spellbook, just to briefly get back, obviously is a super cool card in and of itself, casting all your opponent's spells or your own, and then maybe having some crazy like Mizium Mastery turn as well. Yeah, very much looking forward to losing draft games to this card.
Mm-hmm. Cameron, what are we going to lose a draft game to as well?
I've been interested in this card, Death Priest of Miracle, who's an uncommon. She is a 2/2 Tiefling cleric. We haven't seen Tieflings before in Magic, I don't think, but they are a D&D race who have fiend blood. And they aren't necessarily like half devils, but you know, I from what I understand, depending on the setting, sometimes you might just have a tiefling baby, right? Because of, I don't know, original sin or something, who knows. But she is a 2/2 for 2 and 2 black who has lines of text. Very good, Cameron. They read, skeletons, vampires, and zombies you control get +1/+1. Okay, interesting. Vampires is a neat addition there. And at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you may pay 1 generic mana. If you do, create a 1/1 black skeleton creature token. So she makes 2/2s, right? Because they get her anthem ability.
Oh, right.
She can only make 1 per turn, but she can make them on your opponent's turn. And I've been looking at this card kind of like in context of cards like Pawn of Ulamog and Sifter of Skulls. Sifter of Skulls, I think, is probably the most comparable, which was from Oath of the Gatewatch. It's 3 and a black for a 4/3 Eldrazi. It has Devoid. But whenever another non-token creature you control dies, put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature onto the battlefield. And then it describes what a Scion does. You can sack it. These don't make the cut in my Highlander deck. They've been in, they come out usually. I'm not sure I'm going to be running Death Priest of Miracle, but I like seeing these cards.
I think this one says your end step.
Oh, and yes, it does.
So you're only getting 1 total in the turn cycle.
We haven't actually seen the printed card in English, so we're relying on translations, but
de tu passo final.
Yeah. Still cool.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think any zombie commander deck is probably looking to toss this in because it has that all too relevant skeletons, vampires, zombies get +1/+1. That's I mean it's a little bit high for the asking price for just that at 4 mana, but people love having lots of anthem effects for their creatures, right?
Yeah, exactly. This wants to be in a deck with like Death Baron.
Yeah,
right. Unfortunately, she doesn't get the anthem effect. Right.
That's right.
You kind of want those. You want your Lords of Atlantis to also be Merfolk, right? Even if it says other.
In a perfect world, absolutely.
But yeah, no, I'll probably be first picking a lot of these.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get 2 of these in a draft, that's really hot.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, exactly. Even if you're not getting your first skeleton until turn 5,
Yeah.
I'm still first picking this, and I'm kind of ashamed of that. But, ride or die.
Well, speaking of dying and cards that want creatures to die, I'd like to talk for a second about Grim Wanderer. This is 1 generic and a black, a 2-drop for a 5/3 Goblin Warlock with Flash, but it has tragic backstory, aka morbid. Cast this spell only if a creature died this turn. So it's not necessarily a 2-drop on curve. I mean, if you have like some kind of Mog fanatic, sure. If you spend your first turn setting up the availability of a creature with a sacrifice outlet strapped to it, so just so you can cast the Wanderer on 2, that's fine. But the reason I'm really excited about it is I like playing these kind of scrappy, sort of like low curve but long game plan decks where a Grim Wanderer I think fits really well into like a powerful turn 5 where you get to cast 2 spells, or surprising your opponent with a crackback that they didn't expect that ends up being lethal after they make kind of a safe attack. I think Grim Wanderer, initially you might say like, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to cast this, so it's not this amazing 2-drop 5/3. But yeah, I think in the course of the game, whenever you get to cast 2 spells a turn, or maybe you end up having, it's like 2 of them are stuck in your hand, but then at some point eventually you get the opportunity to trade a creature in combat and then cast both of them, and it's like 10 power for 4 mana. That's really exciting. So I just like cards like this that are sort of a big surprise for the mana value.
Yeah, for only 2, and you can work that in a lot of turns.
Yeah.
And like it's also good insurance against a Wrath.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yeah.
like a control deck Wraths the board, and suddenly you play a 5/3 into it.
Yeah, I mean, by the turn that they've Wrathed, oftentimes, 5 might even be enough.
Mm-hmm.
It has Flash, but it doesn't come into play tap too. So if you're able to like in the mirror or whatever, like if your opponent's sacrificing a creature pre-combat, or your opponent just sorcery speed kills one of your creatures and then they attack, you might be able to get them real good with this Grim Wanderer for only 2 mana. So as a removal spell, it also works sometimes.
My only criticism of this card is that this edgelord figure dominating the doorway of a tavern on the card has to be the tallest goblin I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I believe that would be because hobgoblins are classified under the goblin subtype in Magic the Gathering.
Thank you. I assumed it was something like that.
Yeah, I think this is a hobgoblin.
Okay.
And if you're not familiar with hobgoblins, they are the larger, more heavily militarized goblins, goblin cousins, goblinoids. They come between goblins and bugbears.
Okay.
Right, because there's a bugbear in the set that's also creature type goblin.
Mm-hmm. I think goblin deck players are going to be pretty happy with this set.
Definitely.
But yeah, no, like Grim Wanderer intrigues me. People have been messaging me about it, seeing if it gets into aristocrats. And I'm not sure if it plays into the traditional aristocrats play pattern. In fact, I think it doesn't.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting card for different strategies. Like, I really like this against control decks.
Yeah, so I don't love it for Highlander aristocrats, but I did want to try it out in Highlander mono black aggro.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, full agree there.
We just mentioned Hulking Bugbear, which is 1 generic and red for a 3/3 haste goblin. And yeah, it does appear to be like a fairly large, like twice the size of another goblin in the picture.
Yeah.
So Cameron, then do you know like what's the difference between a bugbear or a hobgoblin and an orc? Are they all kind of occupying the same sort of space?
Orcs are a different thing altogether. I haven't really been keeping track of the cladistic art tree or the phylogenetic tree of life in D&D because I think I don't think it's that specific. Orcs are different.
Okay.
I don't know where they fit.
Orcs built different. Yeah.
I'm looking it up in the Forgotten Realms wiki right now. And yeah, goblinoids covers goblin, hobgoblin, bugbear, varag, and norker.
Okay.
I forgot about norkers. They're very small.
I've never heard of norkers. All right.
Yeah, and then orcs are just orcs. And we know that orcs can interbreed with humans because...
Right, we have half orcs we can play.
Yeah, so that's another interesting thing is, of course, because D&D, because all the people who play D&D are human, so humans are considered the sort of default for how it defines mixed race characters. So that's why a half elf implies that the other half is human, and the same with a half orc. And so for the purposes of mechanics in this set, that's why you have creature types that you have creatures in the set that are type human elf or human orc,
Right.
because that's how Magic is representing half elf and half orc. So I think that's kind of neat.
I really appreciate Matt in our Candlekeep Mysteries campaign playing what was his warlock character? She was half orc, half halfling, right? I enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Right. Really challenging those lexical assumptions.
Yeah. Here we go. Orc related species. So there's different kinds of orcs. Mountain orcs are the most common. There's also gray orcs. There's orogs, which they live mostly in the Underdark. There's ogrillans, which is orc, half ogre. Odontus, which is a pacifist orc cousin with a fey nature. Neo-orogs, which are magical hybrids. And boogans, which are half mountain orc and half quaggoth. And a quaggoth is something that the drow bred in the Underdark. Look, you know what? Let's not worry about it. It's
There's
very
a lot
easy to go.
There's a lot going on here. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I quickly return to like Goblins players getting excited about this set? Because there's this cool card. It's an uncommon in red, 2 generic and 1 red mana for you see a pair of goblins.
Yeah.
It's an instant. Choose one, charge them. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn, aka Trumpet Blast. Or befriend them. Create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, aka Dragon Fodder. So this is a pretty cool technology, I think.
Yeah.
Extra mana for Dragon Fodder, which is like what you're generally thinking of this card when you're putting it into a deck, is like not great. But the flexibility of having Anthem for 2 extra power, that's fantastic in my view, and like definitely worth the extra mana.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think this is a replacement for Dragon Fodder in those decks. This is a replacement for Trumpet Blast.
But it's instant speed dragon fodder if you need it.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of exciting that you can like wreck a 2/1 and still have a body or something. Probably a really good card for limited. And I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets into certainly Canadian Highlander Goblins and maybe some other places. I'm not sure if it'll make the cut in Historic Goblins, but maybe.
Also, one last like tiny detail on this card. The Trumpet Blast is creatures you control.
Right.
Oh.
Not attacking creatures.
Yeah, that's relevant actually. You can block and pump your blockers if you want.
Yeah. And as someone who has died to Trumpet Blasting on my opponent's turn.
Oh no. Whoops.
Right? Like I think we've all of us, every one of us have misread Trumpet Blast.
I've done it once.
Yeah. Once is all you need, but it's happened.
Mm-hmm. Last one I want to talk about is, just because I think it's super cool, is Dancing Sword. So it's 1 and a white for an artifact equipment. It equips for only 1, and the equipped creature gets +2/+1. So that's just very efficient. 2 mana, equip for 1, +2/+1. Cool, great. That's in like Trusty Machete or Bone Splitter territory. So
yeah,
that's
not
very
bad.
aggressive. But when the equipped creature dies, you may have Dancing Sword become a 2/1 construct artifact creature with flying and ward 1. And if you do, it isn't an equipment. So you can't get it back to being an equipment later, because I assume when it stops being an equipment, it also loses its equip ability. But when the equipped creature dies, you can just be like, all right, well now the sword is mad, and now I have this 2/1 flyer with ward 1.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
I just think it's neat.
Yeah. No, fun tech, right?
Yeah.
This is like possibly, I mean, it's in white, so it's not accessible to everyone, but it's like possibly the most efficient equipment we've seen since Bone Splitter, because having to pay only 1 to equip instead of 2 to equip on a 1 casting cost is noticeably better.
Yes.
And then this extra ability where you can choose to turn it into, like, it's you may, which is a big deal, but you can choose to turn it into a flyer. That's great. That's a big upside.
Put another sword on that.
Yeah, exactly. Get another sword on that.
Sword stack.
And then you can flicker it. Yeah, it doesn't exile itself. You may have it become that thing. So it's still the card on the table if you need to like bounce it back to your hand and recast it as an equipment or something. Yeah, I like Dancing Sword a lot.
Super fun. Oh, something just popped up on our Twitter, because of course, as I said, this is on Friday, and we just tweeted about vranus a little while ago, and someone put in a suggestion for a very silly tech with vranus. So a reminder, because it was the first card we talked about. In Rage, make a 5/4 dragon token, and whenever you roll 1 or more dice, you may have vranus deal 1 damage to itself. So, is there a reliable, repeatable dice roll solution, and someone suggested Fractured Power Stone from Plane Chase. So it's 2 mana for a mana rock. So it's two mana rock, taps for colorless, but it has a second ability that's free. You just tap it to roll the planar die. You can only do it at sorcery speed. In Commander, I think you can still do that. It's just the planar die wouldn't do anything.
I don't know if you're allowed to roll the planar die or not. I think the ability might do nothing. I'm sorry. Cries and Judge. I'd have to check it. I'm not sure if this works. Yeah? Or no, Mana Vault just hurts you, right?
Oh, I thought. What's the one where you flip a coin and then
Heads or Tails? Yeah.
Oh, right. Sorry. Mana Crypt.
Mana Crypt. Yes.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
Mana Crypt. Every upkeep, you're either losing 3 life or not. And no matter what, you're getting dragons on the table. Definitely put your Mana Crypts in your Valdis?
Yeah.
Vranus.
Vranus?
Vranus. Combos with Mana Crypt.
I'm not looking at it, obviously. Vrondis. Get your Mana Crypts for your Vrondis decks. Absolutely.
I feel that this is like on the same tier as the Squirrel Zombie that combos with Skull Clamp.
Yeah.
Combos with Mana Crypt. There you go.
I mean, most cards combo with Mana Crypt because you like spending mana. So Vrondis has got his own little piece of comboing with Mana Crypt, at least.
Synergizes.
If you'd like to combo with Vrondis or Mana Crypt, head on over to cardkingdom.com/loading ready run and pick yourself up some brand new D&D AFR pre-orders if you're in the United States, if you want sealed product, or probably you can pre-order the singles anywhere in the world, and definitely you can get older sealed product anywhere in the world. If you ask for a little 1-inch button because you like 1-inch buttons and you want to let them know that we sent you, then they'll send you one. It might say changelings are cowards, but it might say something else. And we'd also like to thank you, everyone over at patreon.com/loading ready run for this and everything else we do, for keeping the lights on and keeping us well fed and putting the sunscreen on our bodies and keeping our air conditioning turned on and keeping us in fine threads. Really, we spend your money on all kinds of things.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking about spending some of your money right now.
Food, clothes, housing, medicine,
Yeah. I'm saving up for my kids' college fund with your money.
Magic cards.
Yeah. Or I could be honest and, say I bought a new computer to play video games on. Heather does... Now, help me out, Graham.
All right.
I almost got there. Graham just let me go. It was great.
I was just curious to see what was going to go happen.
I was going to thank Jordan. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks to James for being here and running the card reader, to Jordan for editing these, and Heather gets them up online. And until next time, I have been Graham, joined by Nelson.
What are you doing after this graph?
And Cameron.
Huh?
And we're going to talk to you next time on Tap Tap Concede. Bye, everybody.
Bye.